For the past 7 years, I have been quietly building a pantry that most preppers would laugh at. While everyone is stockpiling the same freeze-dried meals in rice buckets they read about on every survival blog, I have been loading up on items that never disappear from store shelves, even during full-blown panic buying. Number 9 is sitting at your local international market right now for under $4, and I guarantee you have never seen it on a single prep list. Here's the problem. When everyone reads the same articles and buys the same products, those are exactly the items that vanish first. Back in March 2020, I watched rice and beans get cleared out in about 2 hours at every store in my area. But the items I am about to show you, fully stocked the next day, still there a week later, because nobody knows to look for them. Before we get into it, make sure you subscribe so you never miss these kinds of insider strategies that actually work when everyone else is scrambling. Let me start with number 1. This one sounds so boring that people skip right past it, but it is absolute gold. Dried lentils. Not the red ones, not the trendy French ones. The plain brown or green lentils that sit in the bulk bins that nobody ever touches. Before you think this is just basic prepper advice, let me tell you what nobody mentions. Lentils have more protein per ounce than most canned meats. They cook in 15 minutes with no soaking, and they cost about $1 per pound. A guy I know who manages logistics for a major grocery chain, 23 years in the business, told me that lentils have the lowest turnover rate of any shelf-stable protein. Translation? They restock slow because nobody buys them. Last winter, during a power outage that lasted 9 days, I made lentil stew on a camp stove. 1 pound fed my family of 4 for 2 meals. We added some dried herbs and canned tomatoes. Tasted better than anything we could have gotten from a restaurant. Here's what I do. I keep them in food-grade buckets with tight lids. No oxygen absorbers needed if you are going through them within a few years. A 5-pound bag costs about $5. Meanwhile, preppers are spending $30 on a single bucket of freeze-dried chili that tastes like cardboard and salt. While most panic buyers have never even considered dried lentils, which means when the next crisis hits, you will walk right past the empty rice aisle and grab these without competition. Look, food prices are climbing faster than most families can adjust to. I have done the math for you and put together a free emergency food list that shows the exact 13 items you must keep, all of which you can buy from any regular store. Now, it can feed your family for 2 full weeks and costs less than a single grocery trip. You can grab it for free at the link in the description so you can stop second-guessing your prep strategy and start building a pantry that actually survives a real shortage. Number 2 is going to surprise you. Bouillon cubes. Not the fancy organic broth boxes. Not the low-sodium trendy paste in a jar. The cheap, salty, MSG-loaded cubes that come in a box of 24 for $2. I know this sounds like junk food. Stay with me. These little cubes are pure concentrated flavor and salt, which are the 2 things your body craves most under stress. 1 cube has enough sodium to keep you functional if you are sweating or working hard. A registered dietitian I spoke with, 15 years in emergency nutrition, told me that during disasters, people undersalt their food and end up with headaches, fatigue, and brain fog. Your body needs salt, not wants, needs. 3 years ago, and I opened a tin of chicken bouillon cubes I had stored in a cool closet. They were 4 years past the printed date, dissolved perfectly, tasted exactly the same. Here is how I use them. I drop 1 cube into plain rice while it is cooking. Instant flavor. I add 1 to a pot of beans. I dissolve 2 in hot water and drink it like tea when I'm feeling run down. A box of 24 cubes costs about $2.50. Now compare that to the $12 cartons of organic broth that take up half your fridge and go bad in a week. When the next supply crunch happens, people will be fighting over canned soup. Bouillon cubes will still be sitting there because they look too cheap and too simple to matter. That is exactly why they are perfect. Number 3 is one that most Americans have never even seen. Dried seaweed sheets, specifically nori, the kind used for sushi. You can find these at any Asian grocery store, and increasingly at regular supermarkets in the international aisle. Before you think this is some kind of exotic health food nonsense, let me give you one fact that changes everything. Just 1 sheet of nori contains more iodine than most people get in an entire week. Your thyroid needs iodine to function. Without it, you get tired, cold, foggy. In a long-term crisis where fresh seafood and iodized salt are hard to come by. This is a micronutrient insurance policy. So last summer, during a camping trip where we ran out of fresh food 2 days early, I pulled out a pack of nori sheets. We tore them up and added them to scrambled eggs. My kids thought it was the coolest thing ever. Tasted salty and savory, almost like bacon bits. Here's what I do now. I keep 3 packs in my pantry at all times. I crumble them over rice. I wrap them around leftovers. I eat them plain as a snack. A 10-pack costs about $3. Most preppers have never even heard of nori, which means it never gets cleared out. You will walk into any Asian market during a panic and find shelves full of it while the canned goods section is a war zone. Number 4 is going to sound weird, but this is the one that made me rethink everything I thought I knew about food storage. Nutritional yeast. Before you click away thinking this is vegan hippie food, hear me out. Nutritional yeast is deactivated yeast that tastes like cheese and nuts. It is loaded with B vitamins, especially B12, which is almost impossible to get from shelf-stable plant foods. A nutritionist who works with off-grid families, 12 years in the field, told me that B12 deficiency is one of the most common issues she sees in people eating from long-term storage. You get tired, you get depressed, your brain stops working right. 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast has more B12 than a serving of beef. Last winter, I made mac and cheese from stored pasta and powdered milk, and I added 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. My family could not tell the difference from the boxed stuff. It added that cheesy, savory flavor that makes bland food actually enjoyable. Here's the key. Food monotony causes decision fatigue. When every meal tastes the same, you get mentally exhausted. Boring food makes you stupid when you need to be sharp. Nutritional yeast fixes that. A 1-pound bag costs about $8 and lasts for months. I compare that to the $200 freeze-dried meal kits that taste like salty mush. Most mainstream preppers have never seen this in a recipe, so it never runs out. That is your advantage. Number 5 is sitting in the baking aisle right now, and I bet you have walked past it 1,000 times. Powdered milk. Not the stuff in the refrigerated section, the shelf-stable kind in a box or a pouch. I know what you are thinking. Powdered milk tastes terrible. Now, you are right if you drink it straight, but here is what nobody talks about. You do not drink it, you cook with it. I add it to oatmeal, I mix it into pancake batter. I use it to make cream sauces. Last year, during a supply chain hiccup that left our local stores out of fresh dairy for almost 2 weeks, I made mashed potatoes with powdered milk and butter. My wife, who hates powdered milk, had no idea. Tasted creamy and rich. Here's the trick. Mix it with half the water the box recommends. And it comes out thicker and tastes closer to real milk. Then use it in recipes, never by the glass. A box that makes about 8 quarts costs around $6. It lasts for years if you keep it sealed and cool. I have used powdered milk that was 3 years old. Mixed it into soup. Perfect. Most people avoid powdered milk because of the bad reputation from the stuff their grandparents drank in the 70s. That stigma keeps the shelves stocked while everything else gets cleared out. My number 6 is one I stumbled on by accident, and now I will never prep without it. Dried mushrooms, specifically shiitake or mixed varieties. You can find these at any Asian market and most regular grocery stores now. Before you think this is just a fancy ingredient, let me tell you why this is a survival powerhouse. Dried mushrooms have umami, which is the savory flavor your brain craves. It makes everything taste richer and more satisfying. A chef I know who has cooked in disaster relief kitchens, 8 years in the field, told me that umami is the secret to making people actually want to eat stored food. If your food tastes good, you stay mentally strong. If it tastes like cardboard, you start skipping meals and losing energy. 2 years ago, I made rice and beans with a handful of dried mushrooms I had rehydrated. The flavor went from boring to restaurant quality. My kids, who normally complain about beans, asked for seconds. Here is how I use them. I rehydrate them in warm water for about 20 minutes. Then I chop them up and add them to anything. Soup, stew, pasta, rice. The soaking liquid becomes a rich broth that I use as a cooking base. A 4-ounce bag costs about $5 and adds umami to probably 20 meals. Compare that to the expensive bouillon pastes or the MSG packets people buy. Dried mushrooms do the same job, but better. Most preppers have no idea these even exist as a storage food, so they're always in stock. Number 7 is the one I wish I had figured out 10 years ago. Ghee. This is clarified butter that has had all the milk solids removed, which means it does not need refrigeration. You can find it at Indian grocery stores, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and even Walmart now. Before you tell me butter is not shelf-stable, that is exactly the point. Ghee is. It can sit in your pantry for over a year, and I have personally used jars that were 2 years old with zero issues. Here is what nobody talks about. Your body needs fat, not wants. Needs. Fat keeps you warm. It helps you absorb vitamins. It gives you energy that lasts. In a crisis, most stored foods are low fat or no fat. Rice, beans, pasta, oats, all carbs. You will burn through those calories fast and feel hungry an hour later. Last winter during a power outage, I made oatmeal with a tablespoon of ghee stirred in. While it kept me full for 5 hours, my body felt stable and warm. Here is what I do now. I keep 3 jars of ghee in my pantry at all times. I add it to rice while it cooks. I fry eggs in it. I spread it on toast. A 16-ounce jar costs about $10. That is 60-plus servings of fat that does not need a fridge. Meanwhile, people are spending hundreds on freeze-dried meals that leave you hungry because they're all carbs and salt. Most mainstream preppers do not even know ghee exists, which means it never runs out. Number 8 is going to make you rethink the entire snack aisle. Roasted seaweed snacks. These are the little packs that come in single-serving sizes, usually found near the chips or in the Asian food section. They look like thin green sheets and taste salty and crispy. Before you think this is just a trendy health snack, let me tell you the real reason these are genius. They are lightweight, calorie-dense for their size, shelf-stable for years, and packed with minerals. A pack that weighs less than an ounce has iodine, iron, magnesium, and vitamin K. Last spring, during a road trip where we got stuck in traffic for 6 hours due to an accident, I pulled out a pack of roasted seaweed snacks from my glove box. My kids were getting cranky and hungry. These kept them occupied and gave them something salty to chew on. They did not spike their blood sugar like candy, so no crash afterward. Here is what I do. And I keep a box of 20 packs in my pantry. I toss a few in my backpack. I keep some in the car. Each pack costs about 50 cents. A box of 20 is around $10. Compare that to the overpriced protein bars that cost $3 each and taste like sweetened chalk. Most panic buyers ignore these because they look weird and unfamiliar. That is exactly why they are always available. Number 9 is the one I mentioned at the start, and this is going to blow your mind. Tamarind paste or concentrate. You can find this at any Indian, Latin, or Asian grocery store. It comes in a jar or a block and costs about $3 to $4. Before you tell me you have no idea what tamarind is, let me explain. Tamarind is a sour fruit that adds a tangy, sweet, and savory flavor to food. It is the secret ingredient in Worcestershire sauce, pad thai, and dozens of other dishes you have definitely eaten. Here is why this is a prep game changer. Now, 1 tablespoon of tamarind paste can transform a pot of bland rice or beans into something that actually tastes interesting. A survival food consultant? I know, 10 years in the field, told me that flavor fatigue is the #1 reason people abandon their food storage and start taking stupid risks to get takeout or restaurant food. If your food tastes like nothing, you stop eating it. If it tastes good, you stay put and stay safe. Last year, I made lentil soup with tamarind paste, cumin, and salt. It tasted like something I would order at a restaurant. My wife asked for the recipe. I told her it was 3 ingredients plus water. She did not believe me. Here is what I do. I keep 2 jars in my pantry. I add a spoonful to soups, stews, marinades, even salad dressings. A jar lasts for over a year once opened, and longer if you keep it sealed. Most preppers have never even heard of tamarind, which means it is always fully stocked even during panic buying. Number 10 is another baking aisle secret that hardly anyone thinks about. Cornmeal. Not the instant grits, not the cornbread mix with all the added ingredients. Just plain yellow or white cornmeal. You can find this at any grocery store for about $3 for a 5-pound bag. Before you think this is just for making cornbread, let me show you what it really does. Cornmeal can be turned into polenta, porridge, pancakes, tortillas, breading for fried foods, and even a thickener for soups. A homesteader I know, 20 years off-grid, told me that cornmeal was the most versatile grain she ever stored because it works for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Last winter, I made cornmeal porridge on a camp stove. I added a little butter and salt. It was creamy, filling, and kept me full for hours. My kids ate it with a drizzle of honey and asked for it again the next morning. Here is what I do. I store cornmeal in a sealed container in a cool, dry spot. I use it to make polenta, on which I top with whatever I have. Beans, eggs, sautéed greens. I also use it to coat chicken or fish before frying. Adds a crispy texture that makes cheap cuts of meat taste way better. A 5-pound bag costs about $3 and makes probably 30 servings. Most panic buyers walk right past cornmeal because they think it is boring or old-fashioned. That stigma keeps it on the shelf while rice and flour disappear. Number 11 is a condiment that hardly anyone preps with, and that is a huge mistake. Fish sauce. You can find this at any Asian grocery store and most regular supermarkets now. A bottle costs about $3 to $4 and will last you a year or more. Before you tell me fish sauce smells weird, you are right, it does. But here's what matters. A few drops of fish sauce add depth and richness to any dish. It is pure umami. It makes bland food taste like it has been cooking for hours. A chef who works in food relief operations, 12 years in the field, told me that fish sauce is the single best flavor booster for long-term storage cooking. You use so little that one bottle lasts forever, and it makes every meal better. Last spring, I made a pot of plain white rice and vegetables. I added half a teaspoon of fish sauce. The flavor went from flat to complex. My wife asked what I put in it. I told her. She did not believe me because it did not taste fishy at all. Here is the trick: you do not add a lot. A few drops go a long way. I add it to soups, stews, stir-fries, even scrambled eggs. A bottle costs about $4 and adds flavor to probably 50 meals. Most preppers have no idea this exists as a storage staple, so it is always in stock even when everything else is gone. Number 12 is one I learned from a guy who lived off-grid for 15 years. Miso paste. This is fermented soybean paste that you can find at Asian markets, health food stores, and even regular grocery stores now. And a tub costs about $5 to $8 and lasts for months in the fridge, or even longer if you keep it sealed and cool. Before you tell me miso needs refrigeration, here is what nobody mentions. Miso is already fermented, which means it is preserved. I have kept miso paste in a cool pantry for over 6 months with no issues. It does not spoil. It just gets a little darker and stronger in flavor. Here is why miso is a storage powerhouse. 1 spoonful dissolved in hot water makes an instant savory broth that is full of probiotics and protein. A nutritionist who works with long-term food storage, 9 years in the field, told me that fermented foods like miso help keep your gut healthy during times of stress, which is exactly when your immune system needs support. Last winter during a cold snap, I made miso soup every morning. Just hot water, a spoonful of miso, and some dried seaweed. It warmed me up and kept me feeling strong. And here is what I do. I keep 2 tubs of miso in my pantry. I use it to make broth. I stir it into stews. I even mix it with a little oil and use it as a marinade. A tub costs about $7 and makes at least 40 servings. Most preppers have never considered miso as a storage food, so it is always available. Number 13 is the last one, and this is the one that changed how I think about food storage completely. Dried coconut flakes or shredded coconut. Not the sweetened kind for baking. The unsweetened kind that you can find in the bulk bins or the baking aisle. A pound costs about $4 to $5. Before you think this is just for desserts, let me tell you what it really does. Coconut is almost pure fat, which means it is calorie-dense and keeps you full. It adds texture and richness to anything you make. A wilderness survival instructor I know, 18 years in the field, told me that coconut is one of the most underrated survival foods because it is lightweight, shelf-stable for years, and gives you the fat your body craves. Last year, I made oatmeal with dried coconut flakes stirred in. It tasted like a tropical breakfast bowl. My kids loved it. I also add coconut to rice, curries, soups, and even granola. Here is what I do. I keep a few pounds of dried coconut in sealed containers. I toast it lightly in a pan to bring out the flavor. Now then sprinkle it over whatever I'm eating. A pound costs about $5 and lasts for months. Most panic buyers ignore dried coconut because they think it is just a baking ingredient. That is exactly why it is always in stock when everything else is gone. So while everyone else is fighting over the same tired, freeze-dried meals and bulk rice, you now know 13 items that are cheaper, easier to store, and will actually still be available when the next crisis hits. These foods do not just sit in your pantry. They make your meals better right now, which means you will actually use them and rotate through them instead of letting them expire. Drop a comment telling me which of these you are going to stock up on first. I want to know if you have tried any of these or if this is completely new to you. Next week, I'm revealing the 10 prepper tools everyone thinks are essential, but are actually worthless in a real collapse scenario. Trust me, you do not want to miss that one.